Okay, so rigging up a standard size jig head, a standard sort of J style jig head on anything made out of RST material, people have a bit of trouble sometimes rigging them up properly. So the easiest way to describe it is to make sure that the hook point goes smack bang in the center of the plastic as you possibly can. Thread it down like that. Bring it out in the middle of the back. Now this is where people have trouble, is because this material wants to roll back inside of itself like that, and it doesn't want to actually slide up over the collars, the retaining collars. These are called retaining collars. So all you do is you just bunch your fingers up at the back of it, squeeze against the hook, and then push forward like that. And that'll actually bunch it up against the back of the head like that. That's actually a really popular presentation for us when we're doing deep water barras, finger mark, grunter and stuff like that. This one more for the barras because it's got a bigger hook. So you know, you're talking about big mouth fish. So you really want to make sure that you get a good hook exposure, so you get a good hook up when the fish hits it. Now again, they're an atomic seeker in the 5/0, sorry, 5/0 hook with a 1/4 ounce head on it. So that's in our deepest stuff where there's no snags. So a lot of people have trouble with hookup ratio on weedless hooks. Now if you're fishing around weedless, you need a weedless presentation for around snags and structure and stuff. Obviously any exposed hooks like this are going to snag up. But it's what they call a stinger hook. So a stinger hook is when you're getting short strikes. You've probably seen in a few videos we get a lot of strikes that don't hook up. This is a way of fixing that problem. They're a Gamakatsu product, and they've got a little braided line on the back here with a loop in it. They come with a rubber slide on it, so you can slip it over and then slide the rubber slide up so that it stays connected to your hook. And then in the back here they've got a little hook there, so you can actually stick the stinger into the bottom of the plastic like that and make it right upwards. So it's another way of, if you decide that you're going to try a stinger hook on there to improve your hookup ratio, then that's a good way of doing it. Another thing that you'll see a lot of people do with the weedless presentation is they'll actually stretch the plastic forward and then put the hook point just under the point like that. And there's absolutely no doubt that makes that more weedless, but your hookup ratio absolutely sucks. So personally, I don't opt for that. The small amount of snags that you get when it's just hook point exposed like that, because this is a keel weight here, so this makes the point right upwards anyway. So when it's swimming like that, so it'll slide up over things like that. So yeah, you got to weigh up the benefits out of tucking the point away like that. And yeah, for me, the hookup ratio is just not quite good enough. Okay, so let's say that you've lost your little spring, this little part here, the bit that you screw into the front of the soft plastic. Let's say you've lost that, all right, which happens a bit, and you need to rig this on this style of hook. When you get anything made out of RST material, so the paddle prawns are made out of that super stretchy RST material, it's super slippery when you get moisture, water in between the plastic and the hook, and when you go to cast, that slides down the hook and bunches up, and it's just not a real attractive presentation at all. So the way that I like to rig these, I've never seen anyone else do it this way. I've been showing people this for years, and it's really handy to make a nice compact presentation for when you're fishing weedless stuff. So all you do is you go through the nose, and you bring it right down, like further than you normally would, and bring it out in the middle of the belly like that. And the reason we go down that far, now I'm going to just put a bit of slobber on there. All right, so I'm going to pinch it behind there, slide it up over the top of the lead weight like that, slide that right up over there so the eye of the hook goes back inside there. And I'm going to measure where my hook comes to. I'm going to put the hook through there, come out in the middle of his back, so it sits nice and flush like that. So it's a really good way of making a nice weedless presentation, but you've got to get your line through the eye of the hook. So all you do is cut your leader material. This doesn't work with super fine leader material because it wants to bend. So I can see, because this is a 7/0 hook, I can actually see where the eye of the hook is. So I'm going to do a normal perfection loop. So overhand knot like that, through the plastic. Because I've cut the point on the end of that, I'm going to go through the plastic, through the eye of the hook, and then out the other side of the plastic like that. So now I should be pinning the plastic to the eye of the hook like that. If you haven't done it, you'll know, because as this slides forward, it's going to slide right off the front like that, and your leader's not going to bend. So if you've missed the hook, pull it out, re-put it in, just spin it. If it doesn't want to go through, just spin it a little bit like that, and it'll go through like that. Okay, so we test it again. Now see how the leader wants to bend like that? That means that the eye of the hook has got the line going through the middle of it. Okay, so then we just do what we normally do to finish off a loop knot. If you want to put in your sinker, you can, but all you do is you go through there like that, slide your loop down, not too tight on this presentation, because it's got to be able to swivel over the nose of the plastic without kinking on it and making your plastic swim weird. So 1, 2, 3, back through your loop again, lock him down. So it's important to lock the perfection loop. It's really important to lock it down like that, especially in heavy fluorocarbon. Heavy fluorocarbon seems to have a little bit of memory in it, and it wants to sort of spring back to its original shape. So I don't know if the camera's going to show that up, but you can see what we've got there. We've got the plastic is pinned through the eye, through the plastic, and it can't go anywhere. All right, so it casts really well, and it stops your plastic from sliding down on the eye of the hook. Like that. Okay, so we've done the RST material, so how to rig up a weedless hook on RST material, which is this super stretchy stuff. But sliding a latex or rubber-based material like this sort of stuff here up over the hook and over the lead weight actually tears the plastic up in here, and you end up with this big loose connection here. If you don't tear right through it here, it slides up here, so it bunches back down on the hook, and it tears these soft plastics here. So the easiest way to do these is to put you pre-cut a hole like that, so through the nose, bring it out where you want the hook to come out like that, and then the barb will actually cut a little hole in it for you on the way back out. All right, and then all you do is you just put a little bit of saliva on the end of the eye of the hook there, go into that hole that you just made in the soft plastic, slide it back up inside there. All right, so that's pinned back up inside there again. Measure where your hook comes to. All right, so we know that the hook comes to there. Bend the plastic, go through the middle of the belly. This is the hardest bit to make sure that everything lines up nice and straight. It's got to come out in the middle of his back and sits like that. So we can slide that back up over there, like that. Now, sometimes this up here can be hard to sort of get your leader to go through. So what you can do is use a little piece of fluorocarbon as a pin. So you can actually make a pin with a piece of this. So just cut a needle point on the end of it. All right, you can slide that up over there. Slide that up over the eye of the hook like that, and then use our pin to go through there, out either side. There's two ways of doing this. All right, trim him off there and there, then use a cigarette lighter or one of these butane burners or whatever, just to melt the end of it like that, and then put a little flat piece on the end of it. So I'll see if I can show you up closer to the camera. Melt that, and then just flatten the end of it down with your finger like that, and that'll stop that pin coming out either way, and it holds the plastic onto the eye of the hook like that. So it's another way of making a really good little presentation that can be worked through some pretty gnarly stuff, you know, and that's where a lot of our fish are getting caught, you know. The other thing you have to be careful of is this weight here. On this is a 1/3 of an ounce jig head, this one, so the weight comes further up the hook. Sometimes, depending on the profile, these are pretty deep profile plastic, so when a fish hits it, it doesn't want to slide down too far on the hook like that. So sometimes you have to go for a lighter, like a 1/4 ounce weight on here, so that the lead weight is further forward on the hook, and the plastic can compress better like that and expose the hook a little bit better. Right, so let's say that this 1/3 of an ounce 7/0 Gamakatsu EWG Seeker hook isn't heavy enough, right? So you've been fishing shallow weed beds or shallow snags or whatever, and you only want to present the lure within sort of that first half a metre of water for a plastic that size, that 7-inch size, that's a good hook size for it. But now let's say that the water's got a little bit deeper, or the current's flowing harder, and all of a sudden you need to get the lure to sink deeper. If you sink flat like that, it takes longer to sink. It grabs more water on the way down, so it takes longer to sink. So sometimes putting a little bit of weight on the nose and getting your lure to swim on the way down, get that tail going on the way down, is important. So the way to do that is to get your little sinker that you've just done in powder coat, do an overhand loop knot like that, put your sinker on, so put your sinker on your leader so that slides down against your knot, go through the eye of your hook, back through your loop, slide it down so it's all nice and close like that, and then just pinch it. It's called a perfection loop, and you wrap that 1, 2, 3 times around there, and then back through that loop there. So lock him down like that, and now what that'll do is that'll make your lure sink nose first, so he'll sink more like that than that, and that's quite handy. This all just adds attraction, so any of these UV colours add attraction from underneath. You've got to remember the fish is always looking from that angle there, looking from underneath. So when you've got contrast of that pink against white and then chartreuse on the nose, all those colours come into play. So it's a very handy way of getting your lure to sink nose first in deeper or faster water. I mean hooks that don't have any sinker weight or anything like that on. Alright, but you need to put a weight on the nose in the loop knot up the front here. Obviously having a sinker like that that's got colour adds to the appeal. So the easiest way to do your sinkers like this is just to get a big long screw so you don't burn your fingers. Just put it just so the thread bites in like that. Get your butane burner, heat him up. Make sure before you heat it up that it's on there properly. Heat him up like that. Dip him in your powder coat. Now if you want to make sure that your holes don't block up in your sinker, just get something like that, find the hole like that, and then before it dries hard, actually just spin him in there like that. Give him a few seconds to cool down, and she's done. Alright, so I'll do another one. That's all you do. I'm just trying to make sure that I'm putting this in front of the camera so you can see it. Alright, butane burner, flamethrower, whatever you want to call the thing. Heat him up, dip him in your powder coat before he cools. Find the hole. Alright.